Hello and welcome to the second video in this drawing series. I am Ingrid Van Slyke, an artist and an art teacher. Today we're going to discuss the use of value in drawing through the elements of art and design and how value can bring your drawings to the next level. So I'd like to share with you some information about value that I put together. Then we're going to be working on our skills and I'll be doing some demonstrations for you before you're set off on your second assignment. Value is the lightness and darkness of shapes, objects, and colors. So here you'll see on this slide, there's a value scale on the top. You'll notice it goes from light or white to dark, black, very dark. But colors can also have value. So below this grayscale value, you'll see the color value too, from the lightness and darkness. So value can be in both black and white, and it can be in color. So once again, value is the lightness and the darkness of shapes, objects, and colors. We add value to make shapes into forms. Without light and dark, objects will not have the three-dimensional look that you're looking for in your drawings. What are the ways to use value in your drawings? And how do we do this? Well, here's three examples. The first one is using value in a very smooth, blended way. The second image is using value with lines and strokes and marks. Sometimes that's called hatching and cross-hatching. And another way is by using dots to create value, and that's called pointillism. How adding value makes a difference to your drawings. See here, we learned in the last video, this flat one is a contour drawing, so it's just the outline of the objects. And the second image here is how you make your drawing, your contour drawing, into a three-dimensional looking objects. So you're going from flat line to forms, and value, the darkness and light, will help you to do that. You notice these eggs here on the first image have no value. They're all white with a line. But over here on the right, you'll notice that you can tell which direction the light is coming from. It looks like it's coming off on the left direction, pointing at the eggs, so this side of the eggs are a little bit darker. By doing darker and lighter and middle values, you'll make your drawings more three-dimensional, more realistic. Here is an example of an eye that's been started in contour lines first, and then value shading is added. So in the last video, again, we spoke about contour lines, which is the outline of something. So simply here, the artist has drawn the outline of the eyebrow and the outline of the eye. And by learning the value and their value scale, they've used dark to light to help this eye look more realistic. And the same thing over here on the right. Here's a value scale up above, the light to dark. Here's the beginning of that drawing. And that's how the artist made it look like it was three-dimensional by the use of value. Value is just so important in drawing. So once again, here's the difference between a shape, which you all can make. Here's a circle shape, and a form. So the circle becomes the form by the use of value. So value is so important in drawing, and I'm really looking forward to sharing how to use value and how to draw value with you. Now I'd like to share a short video about value.
The word photograph comes from two Greek words that translate to light drawing. Some people describe photography then as drawing with light. Light defines objects and literally enables us to see things. Artists create the illusion of light by being able to produce a wide range of tonal and color values. Value is one of the 7 elements of art, along with line, shape, form, texture, color, and space. Value is how light or dark a given color or hue is. Values can be better understood when they are visualized as a scale or a gradient. Here's the value scale for this gray tone. It ranges from pure white to absolute black, with a number of gray tones in between. Any hue or tone has a similar scale from dark to light. Different values are created by lightening the hue, in this case adding white to it, or by darkening it with black. When an artwork has many tones in between black and white, it is considered low contrast. For instance, in this photograph by Nicholas Nixon, notice how many different shades of gray there are. A high contrast image, on the other hand, would have very few tonal values between black and white, like this photograph by Kenneth Josephson. The texture of an object's surface can play a role in how we see value. In this photograph by Brett Weston, notice how the veins in the leaves of lettuce create areas of dramatic contrast between light and dark. Compare that with this photograph of bananas, also by Weston. The skin of the bananas dulls the light, which gives the photograph much less contrast. The different ways artists create lines and implied textures can also affect how we perceive value. Notice how heavy and dark the blacks are in this charcoal drawing. Also notice how certain areas smoothly transition from dark to light. This watercolor painting's blacks aren't nearly as dark. Notice too how the shading isn't as smoothly blended. The next time you are looking at a photograph, painting, or drawing, try to notice how the artist is rendering value. And when you're creating your own artwork, practice creating value scales with a variety of different mediums and hues, so your artwork shines in its own unique way.
Now it's time to have some fun and draw some value scales. I'm going to draw for you a few different value scales. You can either work along with me and draw your own value skills, or you can watch me do this demonstration first and then turn it off and then practice and then turn your video back on. So I'm going to put my camera down so you can see what I'm drawing. I'm going to use some different materials. So first let's talk about materials. In the last video we discussed pencils, and we discussed getting a good set of drawing pencils if you can, and if you can't, that's okay. School pencils will work as well. And on the back of the pencil case, we discussed the values that are on the back of the pencils. Now, it's very interesting. You can make value with a 2B pencil, your regular school pencil, by the pressure. You can make a very light pressure, so you can make a very light shade, or you can really push down hard to make a dark shade, because we want to make a full value from light to dark. Okay, so that'll work. But if you have a set of drawing pencils, like we talked about, their numbers on the pencils will tell you that some of them are very light and some of them are very dark. So they're perfect for making values. That way you don't have to worry about the pressure of your pencil or what pencil you have. You just pick the pencil that has the darkest. For instance, an 8B would be very dark, so that would be great for your last value. While an H is something that's very light, would be perfect for your first values. Okay? So I'm going to turn my camera down, and then you can all watch me, and I'll do a couple different. I'm also going to try charcoal too. So give me a minute and I'll turn my camera down. All right, so you see that I've drawn 6 boxes here. The first one, I'm going to keep white, so I'll just put a W up there. The last one, I'm going to make black. So I can go either way, it doesn't matter. I can start with the black one and work to the white one, or vice versa, doesn't matter. So I think what I'm going to do is find my darkest pencil. I have a 6B over here, and I'm going to start with that first. Let's find it. So I'm just going to color in this square as dark as I can make it. And it doesn't matter what direction you go, you're just coloring it right in. So just like anything else that you do in all your daily activities, the ones that you really get good at is because you practice. Practicing value is excellent. And it takes a little bit of time to figure out values. It takes time to stop and look at things that are dark and light. Okay, so I'm going to make that one nice and dark. Then I might use a softer or a different pencil. So that one actually was an 8B. I'm going to try a 4B for my next one. And I'm not going to start out by pushing down really hard, because it's always easier to start off lighter and then go darker. And I want to try to cover the square pretty evenly. You don't have to make squares. You can also make circles if you want. And I'm not necessarily using the tip of my pencil. I'm kind of using it at an angle, like on the side. Let's get it all in there. It doesn't have to be neat either. As far as your edges are concerned, you can go right off the edges. Now, that's not as dark. That's definitely, there's a difference. I can see the difference between them. And that's good. I might darken it up just a little bit. So I just go over with another layer. Just want to make sure that that black stays black. Okay, so now the third one here. Well, I used a 4B. Maybe I have a 3B here. Or I can just lighten up on my pressure. Okay, let's try this. Again, start off light. You can always make things darker. And I might find after this is all done that I want to darken some up. I'm going to darken this up just a little bit, but not as dark as that. Okay, so I've got 3. Let's keep going. I'm using a 2B now. And if you don't have drawing pencils, that's all right. You just do less pressure and less layers. Okay, that looks like it's working. Now I'm going to go all the way down to my B pencils, or an H pencil will also work. Let me find one here. And again, I'm not doing it straight on. I kind of hold my pencil at an angle. Here we go. That works pretty good. I might lighten this, darken this up just a little bit so that it makes a difference between this and this one here. Okay, and this one still seems a little bit too dark, so I'm just going to take my eraser and take a little bit out. Okay, so I've got my 6 values, and now I'm going to do the same thing with charcoal. Okay, so let me introduce you to charcoal. So this is, charcoal comes in sticks, and you buy a package of it, and it has different, for instance, this one says Vine Extra Soft. I kind of like the extra soft personally, but they have all sorts of different hardness and thicknesses. And charcoal is messy, so just get used to it. If you're going to use charcoal, you're going to get a little bit messy. You can wear gloves if you want, but it's fun to work with, but it's a little bit messy. So the same thing, you can also blend it with your fingers. I'm going to start with my dark one here with charcoal. And you can do the same thing. You can follow along if you have charcoal. Now, I'm not going to use my fingers yet to blend. I'm going to see how far I have to go. This one, I'm going to go a little bit lighter. Now, let's see what we got. Add a little bit more, just add a little bit at a time, because it's easier to put more on than to take it off. I need to go a little bit darker. Okay, let's go down over here and see what we can do. And you're slowly trying to figure out your pattern here. This one needs to go just slightly darker to make that one look lighter. Okay, now we'll go down here and I'm putting less on. Here I'm going to put barely any on. Maybe just use what's on my fingers already. So you see the difference in application. Charcoal, you can use your fingers to blend. You can probably use your fingers on pencil too, but you can also use blending stubs for those. These two are pretty close together, so I might even lift a little bit up with my kneaded eraser here. Make it lighter. Okay, there we go in charcoal. Now we're going to talk about some different ways that you can make value. So one reason why it's great to do value scales is because it helps you to learn how much pressure you need to apply to the paper to make the value you want. When you're first starting to learn value, the tendency is to work to go darker right away. And then sometimes it's really hard to lift that off with your pencil or your eraser, I mean. Another way too is so that you learn how to use your pencil to make nice, smooth strokes, okay? So I'll notice that some students, they try to make value and they're going like that, all right? So the line is very uneven. And instead of making very uneven lines, learning to apply a more kind of circular, smooth motion, lightly at first, and then you can go over it again and again if you want. But that's how you start to learn to get nice, smooth value. Because when you want your drawings to look more realistic and you want your forms to look gently formed, learning to use a smooth value, learning how to apply the pressure from your pencil evenly will get you the results that you want. So practicing the value scales is really, really good for you. So I asked you, what other type of ways you could make value? And so think about what are some of the things you could do. And I've got some ideas here. My thought is you could make values using letters. So let's say your name, I'm going to turn this around a little bit, starts with A, okay? So I'm going to start with one here, and I'm going to use A, the letter A, to make values, go in all different ways. The closer I put my marks, my lines together, the darker the value is going to be, the darker the area. When I start to separate them out, it starts to become less dark, more like a medium value. In the video or PowerPoint I showed you on the first video, there was an entire drawing done in words. So repetition, going over and over again with letters is also a really neat way to make a value. Okay, see, just using the letter A, I go from dark to light. Okay, another way you can make value is with dots. We call it stippling. The same kind of thing. I'll start on this side. The more dots you put together, closer together, the darker your area, your value is going to be. No one told you that you have to do lines or pencils or charcoal. You could definitely try using dots. People make drawings using the whole dots for the whole entire thing. So once again, putting dots closer together will make your area darker, and that is dark value. Let's keep going a little bit here. It's kind of noisy. That's okay. I want to make this value pretty dark over here, so I'm just going to keep going on top of each other. Dots. Pretty cool. So there I've got value with dots, value with letters. Now I'm going to show you. You can use regular pens or drawing pens for this. I've just got a regular pen. We're going to use something called hatching and cross hatching. I'll do two things here for you. All right. Hatching is the use of lines, straight lines, to make the value. Not like that, but I'll show you. So you make them parallel to each other. The closer your lines are together, the darker your area is going to be. When you start to make your lines space out, the lighter your area is going to be. It's hatching. Now, there's something called cross hatching, where you do the hatching. And let's say I want to make this area darker. I'm just going to make a few more lines in here. Cross hatching. Now I'm going to go across the other way. There, now it becomes even darker. And I can kind of form something over here if I wanted to. Okay, so crossing, cross hatching, hatching. Fun. Why don't you take a few minutes and see if you can make some value scales, just like I did. Try to make as many as I did. Try making one in pencil, making your blocks nice and smooth. If you have charcoal, that would be great. If not, move right on to making some letters, some dots, and hatching and cross hatching. So I'd like to do a demonstration for you of how to make a circle into a formed ball, okay? And so there's a bunch of different ways you can do this. And for this demonstration, I'm not going to have an actual ball in front of me, but I'm going to draw a circle and make it into a formed ball. So if you don't have, you can either do it, follow with me, or do it on your own. But if you don't want to draw a circle by yourself, you can use anything if you want and just copy the circle around. I'm going to use, let's see here. The bottom of this will work. So now I'd like to do a demonstration for you of how to turn a circle into a formed ball, okay? So if you don't feel comfortable making a perfectly round circle on your own, by all means, go ahead and find something that's circular in your house that you can copy or trace. I'm using a roll of tape. It doesn't have to be. You can use the inside or the outside. For now, I'm going to use the inside. So there's my circle. We learned how to do the contour lines of that. And this is going to be my ball. All right. Now, in order to have light and dark, you have to have what we call a light source. A light source can be a light in your house. It could be the sun, okay? So for purposes of this video, I'm going to do one without a light source, just draw it for you. But if you're at home, what you want to do is you want to set up a ball. Could be a lacrosse ball, tennis ball, any type of ball, golf ball. The smoother, the better. But you'll place it down somewhere, and then you can put a light on it, either a flashlight, your cell phone light, any other type of light in one direction. And kind of make sure that the rest of the room might not be so lit up. It could be even dark. Sometimes you can even put a piece of cardboard around your setup. So if you put the ball in a corner, put some cardboard around it and shine a light on it, you'll have a one-directional line. But for this video, we're going to pretend that I'm doing that. So I'm going to draw a little circle here, and this is the sun. That's my light source. And I'm going to say that my light source is coming and hitting this circle right here. So that means the sun comes, or the light comes and hits this ball right in this area. So that means this area is going to be pretty light, while the other side is not going to be so light. It's going to be in the dark. And because of that, if the sun hits here, there might even be a shadow underneath there. Okay, so let's figure that one out on this side here. The first time I'll do it with, actually I'll do it with charcoal. Okay, so I know that this side's going to be light. I'm going to leave this side alone for now. I'm going to go ahead and make this side darker, knowing that the sun's not on there. Now also watch the direction I'm using my strokes in. I'm not going across. I'm kind of going in the same direction as the ball would go. Directional strokes, directional marks are very important when you're drawing because it helps you see form better, and I'll discuss that as well. Then I'm going to take my finger and do some more blending. And I know I want this side dark, but then I want it to go medium to light. I want to use that value scale again. And I want to smooth it out. I want to make sure I don't lose my light area. Let's make a gentle transition. That's why charcoal is so much fun to use, because you can really do what you need to do with it. Now I'm going to darken this area up. See, there's just a line right here, but I want to make it darker. And I want to blend it out so that I don't have areas of like demarcation. I have just blending. Because when you see value, it's not necessarily all spelled out for you. Here's the dark, here's the light, here's the medium. You have to look really hard to see it. Once again, we'll darken that up a little bit. My fingers keep taking some of it off. Okay, that's good. And if you feel like you've gone too far anywhere, you can also use your eraser to lift some of that up. So maybe I want to lift just a little bit over here. Take some off. You can even use it to blend it. Okay. There we go. All right. And now this looks a little bit too dark right here. Let's get rid of that. Remember, we want to try to get the full value scale in. So we want dark, white, and all the mediums in between. So it takes a little bit of work, a little bit of time. Now, as we said before, there's probably a shadow coming down here. So I'm going to go ahead and make a little bit of a shadow. The inside of shadows are quite dark, and as they go towards the edges, they get a little bit lighter. So I'm not going to use any more charcoal. I'm just going to blend it right from here. Go back again and make it a little bit darker. And I kind of want to make this darker too. Okay. So you can see here, first we made our circle in the contour lines, and I traced this. I knew the direction of the sun, the light I wanted it to come and hit it around over here. That means that this side of the circle would be dark. So that's what I made here. I made the lighter area here and the shadow under there. And because I brought it up, I'm going to ask you a question here. If I draw a circle, you draw it in Sharpie so you can see it. If I draw a circle and I use directional lines like this, say this is pretending my value. Stay with me here. Okay. Does that look like it's curved at all? Not really. The lines are going straight across. What if I did this? It looks a little more curved than this one does, okay? So why I tell you that is because when you go to make your value, if you take your charcoal or your pencil and you just completely put it across horizontally on a curved, like if you're going to draw a curved object and you put your line straight across, it won't give the illusion of it being curved like this does. It'll give the illusion of being flat. So when you start to draw your shapes, I think you all are going to do some circles first. Make sure you go in the directions, and I'll show you how to do that in pencil also. Let's do that. I'll use this one. Darker pencil here. Just looking at my pencils, this will work. So I start the same way. I'm going curved. When you're drawing with pencil, go slowly and build up your values. You don't have to put your darks in as black right away. You can put your darks in as a medium and then go over them again and again. See how I'm gradually building up the value. And I know it's not dark enough, but I'll get there. And I'm also making sure that my pencils, the strokes that I'm using, are not going straight across the ball. And I'm actually going to go in the opposite direction in just a minute. So I kind of keep going, working from dark to light. Moving my hand around. Almost there. Okay, so now I have a lot of medium on this ball. So now I can go back and start with my darker ones. Again, trying to blend them. Slowly blending. Trying to make those values. I'm using a 2B. I could even use a darker one. You find a 4B here. Well, here's an 8B. Let's see what that does. Now I'm going to start to work in that circular motion that I told you about. And it takes time to build up these layers if you want to do it right. So be patient with yourself and have fun. And like I said, you can start off light to medium and then build up your layers slowly. And then you can use your finger to start blending those too. Okay. This looks a little dark here from the lighting. I'm going to just darken this edge up gently, gently. And we might as well put a shadow here. This one's going the opposite direction. And the shadow is fairly thin for this particular ball. Okay, so here's another way in pencil. What I have noticed is that sometimes students will go work like this. I'll show you. They'll make their circle, and then they'll start really dark, making the dark, you know, they start off really good with the dark, and then you'll see, let me get a different pencil. You'll see a line like that, and a line like this. Okay, so notice the difference here. See how this area of value is not blended. You can see the dark, the medium, and we start to get lighter. It's not blended, okay? These down here, see they're blended. The gradation is more smoothly transitioned from dark to light. The same with a pencil. It's more smoothly transitioned from dark to light. There's a big difference between these two and this one right here as far as the blending and the smoothness. This can still be blended and smooth, and that'll take a little while to go back over. You can use your fingers, you can use an eraser, you can start going back over with pencil. So keep those in mind, and also keep in mind the direction of the lines that you use when you want to build your shape, okay? Now that we've practiced our value and you've learned how to do a value scale and you see how important value is, I'd like to give you an assignment called a shattered value drawing. It's a really fun drawing, and I'm going to show you how to start in a simple way, and then I'm going to give you an example of one of my students' work that kind of took it to the next level and did a little more advanced work. But you'll all start at the same place. So I'm going to turn my camera down so you can see my drawing, and then we'll talk about your assignment. Okay, so for today, you're going to need a piece of paper, a ruler, and different pencils. Okay, so we're going to do this drawing in a geometric form. I think that's a good way to start. So the first thing I'm doing is I'm just going to lay some geometric shapes anywhere on my page. Maybe they're connecting, so I've got some circles. Maybe I'll just go with circles for now. And it's okay if they're overlapping, and they can also go off the edge of the page. Just a couple more. One down in this corner. All right. Now this drawing takes quite a bit of time, so you may not want to use a really large piece of paper. This is just a printer paper, so it's 8.5 by 11. After I draw my shapes, it could be any shapes you want, I'm going to take a ruler. So I'm going to hold this up so you can see actually closer. I just drew circles. All right, so I take my ruler, and now I'm just going to draw a few lines right on top of those circles, going in any direction I want. I'm just breaking up the space. Let's go some in this way. The lines can cross over each other. I want to keep that in mind, that I'm breaking up the spaces and creating a bunch of different smaller spaces. But not too small for now. Your next one, if you want to try this again, you could use a smaller area. Okay, so now that I drew my circles first, and now I broke them up by lines. Do you see the lines that I used to break up the spaces? Okay, now you're going to start, I would start with a darker pencil. So let's try a 6B or a 4B if you have one. And if not, you can use a lighter pencil as well. It doesn't really matter, but this just helps you. Okay, pick any of these areas to start with. What you're going to do is you're going to start on one end, one corner. And you're going to be building up value. You're going to go from dark to light in this shape. So let me start first, and then I'll show you closer. Try to stay within. Now, it doesn't matter what direction you go in. I'm kind of going in this direction because I started like in a corner of the triangle with the dark. So I'm gently kind of making that dark. And then I'm going to start with a little bit lighter. You could start the whole thing lighter if you want and gradually make it darker. So here I am, and I'm staying just within this shape. So you see that my lines made this shape, not including the circles, just this area right here. All right, just the shape that is included within these lines. I'm going to go from dark to light within this shape. So I'm going to keep going. I'm going to get a little bit lighter pencil. Let's write a 2B. And all you're doing with this exercise, this assignment, is you're just practicing your values and how your pressure is. And you want to have the full range. So you want to have dark to light, and by the time you get to the edge of the other side, it should be white. So make sure you know that by the time you get there, you want to have white. So start to lighten it up as you get towards there. Now my layers are not very smooth, so I'm going to go back over them again and start to smooth them out. You can even use your fingers. You want to have a smooth transition from dark to light in just this little area that we're working on. And this should be all the way almost to white over here. All right, I'm going to darken up that little bottom part just a little bit more. So I have some black, and then the end of it should be white. I'm going to show you again. Okay. So you can see that I have a transition from dark to light. Now, this is the fun part. I'm going to get the next area that's next to it. So this starts with dark and goes to light. This kind of triangle form that's made by the lines, the shape, I'm going to start with the opposite. I'm going to start with dark and go to light here. So I want dark next to light and light next to dark. Let me show you. You're going to stay within that triangle. By the time you get to the end of the triangle, you should have white. And make sure it's kind of blended. Now I'll probably go back over my blending and make sure that everything is nice and smooth. And a little bit with my fingers. So you see the difference here? The dark here touches the light. The dark here touches light. It's opposite. So now we move to the next area that I made. So I see that it's light here. I'm going to start with dark next to it, and I'm going to work to light. And then if I want to do this one next, I'm going to start with dark or light and work to dark. I'm going the opposite next to each other. So I'll do this last one, and then I'm going to show you an example of what it's going to look like when you're finished. Again, this is called a shattered value drawing. And really, you're just practicing your value drawing and your pressure, and you're actually going to make some really cool shapes. When you're done with this, you'll put it up and you'll say, wow, that's pretty cool. It can be tedious, but it's worth it. It'll be a beautiful drawing. Again, gradually going so that you get to white. I'm kind of rushing here for the sake of the video because I want to get some more done so you can see it. Okay. So that's how it's starting out. So what does that mean with this little tiny space that I did here? Well, the same thing. If this is dark, I'm going to have this light and dark here. What about the circle? You could go any direction you want. I might go dark here because I see it's kind of medium here, dark to light in this direction. You could go in this direction or that direction. So let's try dark. You're breaking up all those forms that you made with the ruler, the geometric shapes that you made, first with your circles and then with your ruler. You're breaking them up, and in every single one of those little spaces that you made, you're going to do a value drawing. Okay. So I think you understand what I mean. I'm going to keep going in this circle, go from dark to light, and then I'm going to smooth everything out. So I'm going to show you an example of what it could look like. This is one of my students' work, and she did a ski boot. So the first thing she drew was the outline of the ski boot, And then she drew in the buckles outlined here. She decided not to put value in those, and that's okay. And then you see in every single little area that divided with the ruler, she did a value study. And she put the darks next to the light. So this, for instance, this is dark, and it goes to light. Because this one's dark, the next box goes from light to dark. And she does that all the way around. So eventually what happens is, because of the way you break up the spaces, your form shows up really, really nicely. So that's a fun project to do. So that's what I'd like you to do. Practice your value scales, and then practice doing a shattered value drawing, because they're so much fun to make. Like I said, they take a little bit of time, so slow down. Make sure your values are nice and smooth into transition. And you don't have to stick with just geometric shapes. If you want to be more advanced, you can start like this student did with the ski boot. You could do anything you wanted to. You could do a sailboat, a landscape, whatever. It would just be first start with a contour line drawing, and then divide up the spaces, and then do your value and everything. Remember that the smaller the spaces, the more time it's going to take you to do it. But it's fun, what the heck, and it's really good for your skills. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and keep drawing, keep practicing, and remember that value is our most important thing in drawing, and even in painting and other art forms too. Photography too, value is very important. So thank you for joining me.